Hello and welcome, I'm Davis, Tales from the Beanbag, got episode 4, did 3 last week, probably won't do that every week, because, first week I thought I'd do a handful, pick a couple variety of topics. I think maybe I'll do like 2 shorter subjects, maybe 1 longer one, because it takes a while to edit, and I don't want to talk that long, especially today. I just got another piercing. Face kind of hurts, a little hard to talk, but thanks for coming back. If you're new, thanks. Got the older episodes, feel free to click, like, subscribe, whatever. So I got 2 shorter subjects to talk about today. I even got next week planned. One of the things I want to do is, because we got St. Patrick's Day, I'm not sure if I'll be able to get through all of them in one sitting, but I want to do a franchise review. So it's $10. Got the Leprechaun complete collection. I've only seen 2, and I hated it. Probably going to hate all 8, but I'm going to watch them, talk about them next week anyways. At least I'm wishful thinking. So there's that. Anyways, so first one I want to dig into is a little bit vague. Was thinking I'd talk about sequels today. I'm not going to talk about remakes or reboots. I have another idea planned for that. But sequels, if you saw the title, ones that defied expectations. What I mean by that is, we all know sequels, when they come out, it's like blah blah blah, number 2. And it's never as good as the original. And if it is close or about the same quality, it's very rare that we get something that's unanimously considered better, or does something so crazy it's like a breath of fresh air. Usually it kind of comes right at it or well below. Like the law of diminishing returns is what we refer to as sequels. You see it a lot in the horror genre because, every franchise has been sequeled, remade, etc., driven into the damn ground. A lot of people get tired of it. It gets a little tedious because, horror fans will watch anything, and I guess the casual audience kind of maybe enables that because sequels are so cheap. Horror movies are so cheap to make. They just keep making sequels, budgets go down, and then as profits go down, blah blah, the sequel or the series dies, and we don't see anymore. But, like I said, there are rare occasions where the sequel is considered by all to be better. In non-horror movies, we got movies like within the Mad Max series. Like the original Mad Max is, classic, came out in the 70s, really low budget Australian movie. I think it's still considered to be one of the most profitable because it was George Miller made that on such a small budget. But then, handful of years later, we got The Road Warrior, which was, in my opinion, way better. A lot of people would tend to agree. It just took the series to a whole new level. And before I'm going to talk about like Fury Road, even when Mad Max Fury Road came out a handful of years ago, I would, and a lot of people would argue that's even better than The Road Warrior. So, George Miller just keeps piling on the legacy of Mad Max. That's probably the franchise where sequels just seem to get better and better. A lot of people will talk about Terminator 2 Judgment Day being better than Terminator 1. It's not quite as much of a gap as Mad Max, but it's still a lot better. I think a lot of people can agree, not that the original is anything bad, Terminator's a classic, but, then we also see, like, in The Dark Knight, which is way better than Batman Begins. Batman Begins is still great, but The Dark Knight I haven't seen the new Batman, I'm going to see it tonight probably, but it's still considered the best Batman of all time. And then, Hellboy 2, a lot better than Hellboy 1. Not that Hellboy 1 was bad, but just Guillermo built on top of that. Unfortunately, we didn't get Hellboy 3, but at least we got Hellboy 2, and it was freaking awesome. Then in terms of a series, I know this is technically a reboot, remake kind of thing, but we saw with the Planet of the Planet of the Apes trilogy, the most recent one. The original Planet of the Apes is a classic, but it hasn't aged as well in the original series. Like, all 3 movies are just top-notch movies. So, and your average kind of non-horror type of movie, you see a lot of that. It's still pretty rare, but I think you see it more than horror. But, there's tons of examples. But I picked a lot within the horror genre that some I would consider better, some the general population would consider better. A lot kind of did something really different. Some of this is personal opinion, but I'm going to get into it. So, first one I have, which is a little tricky because it's The Silence of the Lambs, which is technically sort of a sequel to Manhunter, and Manhunter is based off the Thomas Harris book, Red Dragon, which they did do with Hannibal Lecter, played by Anthony Hopkins, to make it seem more in line with Silence of the Lambs. But Silence of the Lambs is vastly superior to Manhunter. Manhunter is a great movie. I like it a lot, but, the argument about who's better, Brian Cox or Anthony Hopkins, it's a total pissing match. I mean, they're both great. Obviously, Anthony Hopkins really cemented the legacy, but Silence of the Lambs is the one, that's even considered to be one of the best movies of all time. It is a lot better. But the next one, which is a little bit more horror, is Rob Zombie's The Devil's Rejects. So with The Devil's Rejects, I think it's vastly, vastly superior to House of a Thousand Corpses, and I think most people would agree. I think that's kind of the consensus on it. House of a Thousand Corpses was, kind of his love letter to Texas Chainsaw, 70s grindhouse movies, which Rob Zombie's known for, and that being his first movie, I don't think it's not quite right, especially in terms of tone, and I think even Rob Zombie admitted that, because it's a little too goofy. I think he went a little too Texas Chainsaw 2 on it. It's a little too goofy. It's a little too all over the place. Cinematography's not great. But then Devil's Rejects comes out a handful of years later, and it's just solid. It plays more like an action movie. The performances, the original cast returns. Performances are better. The dialogue's better. Everything about it's better. Yeah, I still think that's his best movie, and unfortunately 3 from Hell wasn't as good, but, you can't get Mad Max every time. Another one, which, we got Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which is the 7th installment in the Elm Street series. Some people would say, that Elm Street Part 3, Dream Warriors, is better. I don't know. I don't think it is. But by the time we got to, Elm Street 1 is such a classic. Elm Street 2 comes out, and it's awful. It does have a special place in a lot of people's hearts, for some of the cultural significance of it. It's a pretty bad movie, but it does have its purpose, and it's kind of fun. But, Part 3 kind of revived it. Then we saw 4, 5, 6. Kind of by Part 6 it was a total shit show, but Wes Craven's New Nightmare is, in my opinion, the best sequel of all. A lot would agree with that, because it's not really a direct sequel, but it is one of the first movies of the kind of time to take that meta approach, where the whole cast is like them in real life. It's like the movie within a movie. It's done really well. It's kind of feels like Wes Craven's precursor to Scream, but with a lot less humor. But Wes Craven's New Nightmare is a lot better than most franchise entries by the 7th are, and I'm thankful for that. It's a really, really cool movie. It's really interesting. So yeah, check that one out too. Another one which is kind of like that. We got Halloween. The one that came out in 2018, still called Halloween, obviously, but the Halloween franchise is so all over the place with timelines. You got the original, then you got Part 2, and then 3 goes into that fucking, you know, anthology kind of format they tried, and then they brought him back, and then they rebooted it and tried to make it a sequel. Then we got Rob Zombie's movies, and then we got this, which is like basically the third direct sequel to the original. And really, like, I was surprised that Halloween 2018 was this good. It's awesome. It's the best sequel in the franchise. It really holds up the legacy to the original, does everything right, feels right. You got Jamie Lee Curtis returning. It's an excellent movie, and it's one of the best horror sequels in recent memory. And yeah, I love Halloween 2018. Unfortunately, of course, people hate on Halloween Kills, and sometimes for the right reasons, but, you know, kind of gave people a little unfit, you know, bad taste in their mouth with this revival trilogy. But anyways, another recent one, which is the only TV series on this list, is the Chucky TV series, which, even though it just aired season 1 on Sci-Fi, I watched it. I loved it. I thought it was the best thing in the series in general. I mean, Child's Play, the original, is... I like Child's Play. It's a fun movie. It's good. Chucky's iconic. But yeah, the movie, it hasn't aged well, and I mean, it's so inherently cheesy. But, you know, Brad Dourif, Chris Sarandon are all great in the movie. It's a classic. I can't trash on it. But the Chucky TV series, it had the characters, the human characters were so much more likable. So much more development. You know, the kids were great actors. It felt so much more heartfelt and made a lot more sense. And it's great. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I don't know when season 2 comes out. I hope, you know, the show stays consistent and on for a while, because we don't see horror TV stay on for a while. But yeah, Chucky, I think it's on Peacock. It's awesome. I love it. I think it's the best thing. Brad Dourif returns. A lot of the cast kind of pops up. It continues on from the franchise. It's kind of a rare thing to see. But, you know, another one I've got is, another recent film on this list is Paranormal Activity Next of Kin. This one's totally my personal opinion, because I just don't like the Paranormal Activity movies very much. I think the originals, for a movie that's made on something I can make out of my savings account, I think it's made on something stuff in the thousands. It was one of the cheapest movies ever made, and, you know, like, filmed on probably like a camera like this, made in Oren Peli's house. I mean, it's for a found footage movie, it's pretty good. It's not especially scary. It's not my favorite. I'm just not afraid of ghosts. But yeah, Paranormal Activity just went downhill really fast, faster than almost every franchise, I think. It's probably my least favorite, personal favorite. But I mean, buy the marked ones or whatever, I can't even remember some of them. By the time they came out, I just didn't care, and they were just, I couldn't get through them, because I hated them. But when I saw Next of Kin, because I had Paramount Plus, it's still on there, I was like, out of pure curiosity, I'm like, let's check this out. I'm probably going to turn it off and hate it. But gosh, it's freaking awesome. It doesn't, you know, of course it continues that found footage style that's essential to the series, but the way they take it with the kind of Amish turn cult thing and the girl reconnecting with that family, it's done really well. I thought William Eubank, I think he's a great director. Perfect way to revitalize the franchise, and I think it did. I don't know if we'll keep seeing movies of that quality within the franchise, because I mean, it does seem like a movie that was written and kind of just inserted into Paranormal Activity, but still, I was really blown away. It's pretty freaking scary. It's great. I liked it a lot. I was really, really pleasantly surprised with it. You know, kind of moving on. Another one, which is kind of like Silence of the Lambs, is Dr. Sleep. While it is based on books primarily that are sequels to each other, it's hard to forget the previous adaptation of The Shining. And while The Shining has been done twice, obviously, gonna primarily talk about the Stanley Kubrick version, which we all know and hopefully love. And then there was a TV series. From what I haven't seen the TV miniseries, which was done in the 90s, but from what I understand, it's way more faithful to the book, which I also haven't read. But Stephen King infamously said that he hated Kubrick's version, that Jack Nicholson was too unhinged, and it didn't like it, but fans loved it. It's like one of the best horror movies. It's one of the essential movies, but by the time Doctor Sleep came out, I think fans were a little hesitant because Doctor Sleep is a very different movie than The Shining is. Probably either adaptation, but Mike Flanagan, the director, who is one of the best filmmakers, not just horror filmmakers, working today, on Hill House, etc. He's a masterful director, but when Doctor Sleep came out, a lot of people complained it was too long, it wasn't as scary, but the cool thing that Mike Flanagan did that really elevated this, because it could have easily been one of those really disappointing sequels, is he knew that he had to follow the book, which from what I understand he did, and he also wanted to do not quite fan service, but he was aware that most people had seen and just loved the Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. And of course we see the forgetting the characters' names, but Jack Nicholson played in the bar when he's re-aged Henry Thomas to make him look like Jack Nicholson when he's talking to his father in there. You see the hotel designs the same. There's a lot of callbacks to the original, just to kind of make people feel like it's more of a sequel to that than something they probably haven't seen or read. So I thought it was a really good choice, and I think that's why the movie works so well. It was really well received. I think it probably didn't make as much money because it was a little hard to watch at sometimes because it was so long, but I think that's one of the best decisions he made in regards to it. But yeah, Doctor Sleep was better than I really thought it would be. Another one that's also from Mike Flanagan is Ouija Origins of Evil. Damn, I gotta be honest, I watched the first Ouija movie, and like everybody, I was like, this is the worst fucking movie I've ever seen in my whole goddamn life. And it is. The original Ouija is god-awful, it's trite, generic, it's trash, the plot's garbage, it's just teens screaming, it's like Paranormal Activity, but worse, unlikable characters, predictable everything. But when Origin of Evil came out, I didn't even care to watch it, and then a lot of people probably agreed. I'd imagine it made a whole lot less money, but damn, in terms of quality, this movie just exceeded expectations. The time period also helped, and Mike Flanagan's masterful directing, and the cast, he features a lot of the same actors in a lot of his projects, which maybe you've seen. Really works well. The whole movie works, and it's the best. It's a lot of these movies are a little bit better. This one's multitudes better. It's amazing, and unfortunately we probably won't see him do another movie for them, and that franchise is probably dead in the water because the first one did so harm. But Origin of Evil, it's probably the largest step up in quality for any horror series at all. So props to Mike Flanagan. Next one, we got The Purge Anarchy. This one is a little mixed. I don't necessarily feel like I think this is better than the original, because I do like the original. The original, The Purge, is kind of your standard home invasion thriller with some twists and turns. Ethan Hawke's great in it. I think it's a great movie, but when people got the kind of saw that, hard to explain, the premise, when the premise was revealed for this movie, 12 hours to do anything. I don't think they're expecting a home invasion thriller. They wanted to see it out in the world, and that's where people were let down with The Purge. And Purge Anarchy gave the fans what they wanted, kind of a movie more that they expected. There's a lot more action, a lot more killing. You kind of see that world a lot more than you did in the first one. And if it's technically better, I don't know, but it really gave people what they want, and that's why I included it on here. So yeah, I mean, unfortunately, some people would argue, I think maybe some of the other ones are even better than Anarchy. I don't know, I'm not dead set on any of them. But next one I have is probably the least well known on this list, is Wrong Turn 2 Dead Ahead from director Joe Lynch. It's a sequel to Wrong Turn. Wrong Turn, like I was talking about, was in the beginning. It's one of those franchises that like. Wrong Turn's a decent movie. It's like a 6.5 out of 10. It's a fun time, but no one expected there to be 7, and all of them after the first are direct to video. And goddamn, Wrong Turn 2 Dead Ahead is awesome. It's a lot better than the original. It's kind of takes, the Hills Have Eyes backwards hillbillies, and then throws like the Survivor reality TV series as the backdrop for the creepy people killing them. It's got Henry Rollins. Joe Lynch is a much better director, I think, than the guy who did the original. It's one of those rare movies that just kind of got dumped onto direct to video and was better than the original. So yeah, Wrong Turn 2 is awesome. Another one I included was Split from M. Night Shyamalan. While I think it's not as good as Unbreakable by any means, I think they do meet the same level of quality. But at the time of the release of Split, a lot of people didn't even know it was a sequel to Unbreakable, because it wasn't, the spoiler alerts weren't out there, because, Unbreakable is this great superhero, grounded thriller, and then Split's this just crazy story about this guy with split personalities, and takes it into the world of horror, and it worked really well. It really combined the worlds kind of together in a weird way. Unfortunately, we didn't see that continue with Glass, but Split, like, for a movie people didn't even know was a sequel, really surprised me when I watched it. I like Split a lot. I do wish Glass was better, and I do not think it's better than Unbreakable, but it was a really interesting experiment that worked, bringing those two together. Another one that I'm just going to talk about this whole series kind of in passing a little bit, because I want to work on it in more time, is the Evil Dead series. Because the Evil Dead is one series that easily could have gone downhill fast. Because, the original Evil Dead is just straight horror. Like, I think it's like rated X in the original cut. But, it's just the Evil Dead is just straight horror. Then, a handful of years later, we get Evil Dead 2, which is the same movie, but just with Bruce Campbell, and it's just over-the-top comedy, and somehow it works in a really interesting way. And then we get Army of Darkness, which is a total fantasy movie, which still works, which I was really surprised. But yeah, Evil Dead is one of those series that just kind of did whatever it wanted, and it always worked, because it was always done so well. Props to Sam Raimi. All 3 movies are just as good as the other, and all very unique. So yeah, that's why I put that one on there. And the last one I have, which is, I would probably say, is the worst movie on this list, but however, Psycho 2, and I include it because the legacy of Psycho is so undeniable in horror. It's what many consider to be the original slasher movie. Alfred Hitchcock, it's a masterpiece in every way, shape, or form. But Psycho 2 didn't come out till 1983, a whole 23 years after Psycho, and it was a movie no one was asking for at all. It's in color. Psycho 2 is more of your typical slasher, which even came out during that slasher period. So I think a lot of people just kind of expected it to be like some Elm Street ripoff. And Psycho 2 is way better than it had any right to be. If you see Psycho 2 and you're a big Alfred Hitchcock fan and you're, hesitant to watch it because you love Psycho so much, don't be. Give Psycho 2 a chance. It features Norman coming back from prison and going back to the home, starting his, spree killing again. It was, for a movie that came out so long after, and after such an iconic movie that, had no necessity for a sequel. It's really good. It's the most pleasant surprise, because I thought it would be terrible, but it's not. It's good, so give it a chance. I mean, I did. I liked it. But yeah, those are just some of the sequels that I thought were better, did something really cool, were really surprising, that, you don't always see very often, and it's really cool when you do. So, yeah, drop in the comments. Let me know if there's a sequel that really surprised you, or maybe just personal opinion that you liked a lot better, because some of these are my personal opinions. Let me hear yours. Yeah, let me know about sequels. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching Tales from the Beanbag.